Good morning, everyone. I wanted to come on briefly this morning. I know it's Wednesday morning, but I wanted to come on because I wanted to remind everyone that Reverend King will be on tonight, our candidate for Galveston County Judge. William H. King III will be on Electra James Inspirational Talks tonight at 7:30 p.m. Now, it's not going to be an interview. What we're going to do is set him up, and he'll be live by himself. It's going to be an information session. He's going to share whatever it is he wants to share. He will be on this platform by himself. I am asking you all to tune in because he has a mountain of information that is going to be beneficial to all of us, not only about his campaign, but about upcoming changes in election and how we're going to be casting our ballots. He's going to be giving us some important dates that we need to remember. October 8th, for sure, they're having a voters clinic over at his church. But there's October the 24th. He's going to talk about early voting and the actual date of the general election for the midterm. I am reaching out to everyone, asking you to please tune in tonight, 7:30 p.m. for this information podcast that the William H. King III, candidate for Galveston County Judge, will be sharing with you. Please don't miss out. We complain about, voting. We sit and say we not going to vote or my vote don't count. That's not true. Because guess what? Every time you don't vote, you give your opponent 2 votes, yours and theirs. Yours and theirs. We need to stop that. That's just an easy way out not to participate. And it's not fair to the ones that get out here and fight to try to make a difference. And then you sit and say, voting don't count. Laws don't just come about on their own. Rights are not just taken from you on their own. Those who sit back and say it don't count because you don't get what you want right away, everything takes time. In life, everything takes time. You have to keep fighting. You have to go back time and time again. And maybe next time you get some of the things that you want. But nothing comes overnight. They have rolled back Roe versus Wade. Now, people got their own views about it. But let me tell you something. As a woman, I continue to speak on this because I'm a woman. Every woman ought to cover those streets. Because this won't be the last right that they take from you. I worked for 10 years as a legal advocate. I lobbied in Austin, just with others, to try to hold on to the Violence Against Women Act when they were trying to overturn that. You know who sponsored that law? The man up there right now, President Joe Biden, and the other sponsor was Hillary Clinton. You can say what you want to, but I know that they sponsored that law. They wrote that. And all that domestic violence and all that women not having rights to their own bodies. Women could be raped by their husbands and the husbands wouldn't be held accountable. Women could be beaten by their husbands. And then guess what? As long as Whatever he beat you with wasn't longer than his thumb. He was within his rights. Even stabbing a woman. People, we better educate ourselves. We sitting back doing too much, but we are not paying attention to what we need to be paying attention to. Because, and what they would do, these men would do, I know, I worked it. I fought for these women. I walked with these women. They would ball up their fists that would keep them within the law, because guess what? It wasn't longer than their thumb. I am telling you facts. We have better get off this sideline and wanting to be spectators only. And then we sit and we complain about what's not right. Well, what did you do? What part did you take in it? See, you can't just sit back and complain. You got to do something. I love the Lord with all my heart and soul. But you know what? I still have to go back and think about what the word say. Faith without works is dead. And then Fannie Lou Hamer came along and said, you can pray until you faint. But unless you get up and do something, God not just going to sit it in your lap. Nothing is just going to be sat in your lap. You got to fight for things. And when you talk serious, everybody want to say, oh, you being mean, you being aggressive. No, I'm being truthful. I'm being honest. Everybody that sits on the sidelines, it's just like saying, I'm not going to even complain. Because when you sit on the sideline and don't do nothing, you're saying that it don't matter what happens. Whatever comes out, it just comes out. It don't matter. Don't matter. That is horrible. That is horrible. You can say what you want, but it's horrible to sit up and look at a world that's on the brink of losing its democracy. And you got nerve enough to sit down and say, voting doesn't count. You know, they asked the question of Harriet Tubman about the slaves. Said, how many slaves did you help to free? She said many, but it could have been much more. But a lot of them just didn't believe they were slaves. Harriet Tubman said that years ago. I could have freed so many more, helped to free so many more, to get others to freedom. Only if they had believed they was slaves. They didn't believe they were slaves. So they stayed behind and were beaten. The women were raped. I mean, they went through so much stuff. And I know I talk a lot on women, because women are the largest pool of voters. And I fought for women 10 years. And, you know, I'm going to tell you this. And I believe if it was Bo Derek or any of the other ladies who fought for women's rights, they would say the same thing. It's like spitting in people's face. Spitting in your face. When people, you went out there and fought, and they have nerve enough to tell you that voting doesn't count for their rights. And men, we need y'all to help us too. We help y'all. We need y'all to stand with us too. We stand with y'all. I'm going to tell you something. I just heard this morning on Sirius XM, Joe Madison, channel 126. I just heard it this morning. where a gentleman, he wrote a book, and I can't remember the name of the book. He said, the interviewer asked him, what is your largest fear this upcoming election in the midterms? And he said, because it has been implanted in the minds of people to not trust election results, we had better be observative. We had better get to these polls as early as we can. Get out there in the early voting and be vigilant when you're doing that. Because this thing have been taken to another level. Because people have chosen to put distrust in the minds of voters. You know what that's about? Fear. If I can get you afraid enough, you won't even go vote. You will throw your vote. You will give your vote away, and you will spit in the face of those who have fought for you. Every time, those of you who want to sit back and want to criticize everybody that's advocating for voting, you are spitting in the face of those who have fought and continue to fight for you. I fight for our children. I fight for my grandchildren. They're the ones that if this thing gets unraveled, democracy gets unraveled, you can say what you want to. But let me tell you something. They will suffer. And you that sit there and act as though voting doesn't count, you will be responsible for that. Because you are in a position right now that you can vote and try to hold on to democracy. Now, if you okay with this country becoming an autocratic country and only one person rules and everybody does what that person say, you just sit right where you are. Because you will be the cause, whether you want to see it this way or not. You will be the cause of the suffrage that will come to those who are coming up behind us, who will be here, have to live in this world with rights that you have celebrated, with rights that you have celebrated. And let me tell you, those people who so excited about Roe versus Wade being taken away, they won't stop there if you give them the power again. If you give them more power, they didn't already say what they're going to do. You can say what you want to, but I don't sit up and just believe what people say. I research, I investigate, I look into things. That's been my job for years. In those 10 years, as a legal advocate, you don't even have a clue of what that work entails. Women don't have a clue that if other women like myself and others who stay down lobbying in Austin so much, fighting for rights for women, being that voice for that silent woman, being that voice for women who were killed, and not only them, sometimes the abuser killed them and their children. Fighting for rights for women so that their husbands wouldn't have the right to rape them. Their boyfriends wouldn't have the right to rape them just because they was in a relationship. And you want to sit on the sideline and you want to say that voting doesn't count? Because we always, and like I said, I love the Lord with all my heart and soul. But let me tell you something. He gave you some common sense too. And people want to hide behind scripture when they want to do something. Well, guess what? Slave owners, they hid behind scripture. Yes, they did. That didn't stop them from making you a slave. That didn't stop them from beating your foreparents, that your ancestors. That didn't stop them from cutting my grandfather in half because they wanted his land. That didn't stop them. Scripture, they went right head on and acted as though it was okay with the Lord for them to do that. Let me tell you something. You sit down if you want to. There's going to be things required of you. There's going to be things on your hand when you could have made a difference. Afraid to tell people about getting out and voting. That's crazy to me. I'm not telling nobody to vote like I want you to vote. That's not what I'm saying. You vote how you want to, but you should at least exercise your right to vote. Vote your conscience. We so busy doing everything, and right beneath us, the world is changing. Right underneath our feet, the world is changing. Yes, you can get you and your family out there, but when you get you and your family out there, you tell some other people, go get some more people. I'm serious about this voting thing. I really am. I'm serious about the future that I will leave behind for my grandchildren. And you ought to be serious about that too. Life isn't a joke. And when people are dead set on keeping groups of individuals underneath their thumb, they're going to keep fighting. They don't care what it takes. So that means that you got to keep fighting no matter what it takes. Because you got some people depending on you. You got some grandchildren. You got some nieces and nephews. You got children of your own. You got some sisters and brothers that's younger than you. You got some people that you need to be fighting for. Because they can't fight for themselves. They can't get to the polls right now because they're too young. So this talk this morning, I'm just sharing with you guys to say to you, there's a time when you have to sit down and have a serious conversation and forget about who's not going to accept it. You say it anyway. That's on them. That is on them. Just like it's on those people that want to use for an excuse that voting doesn't count. Yes, it does. Even yours that you don't cast, you giving your vote to another person. So they get yours and theirs. They rob you of yours and then they cast theirs. Okay? We better get serious and we better do it quickly. Yes. And stop listening to all this chatter about voting doesn't count. Okay? You're an adult. You've lived long enough and you know within yourself voting counts. You know that. You know that you are able to enjoy some things and do some things and go to some places that years ago your grandparents and your parents couldn't even go to. But somebody fought for you to be able to do that. And it's not just talking about African Americans. Women didn't even have no rights. Look at white women didn't even have no rights. Excuse me. Look at how the old movies, women weren't in those movies as secretaries. White women weren't in there. White men were in there. They were the secretaries. So civil rights helped a lot of us. It's up to you. I don't believe I can say anymore. It's up to you. You got to either sink or swim. It's up to you. But on tonight, if you can, carve out some time out of your busy schedule. Tune in and listen to Reverend King, the candidate for Galveston County Judge. All right? You guys have a wonderful day and take care of yourselves. All right? Bye-bye.